David casually requested this live stream be deleted. The girl laughing beside him was 14-year-old Celeste Ras Hernandez. For months later, she vanished without a trace until her dismembered body was found in his car. Now we finally got hold of the last footage of Celeste alive. And it may just crack the case wide open. The discovery that shook Hollywood. On the morning of September 8, 2025, workers at Hollywood Tow on North Mansfield Avenue noticed something unusual about a sleek black Tesla Model 3 that had been sitting untouched in their lot for weeks. The vehicle bore Texas license plates, had a noticeable dent in its frame, and most concerning of all, emanated a sickly, pungent stench that grew stronger the closer anyone approached. The Tesla had been impounded on August 15th after sitting abandoned near the Hollywood Hills, just blocks from some of the entertainment industry's most exclusive addresses. For nearly a month, it had remained unopened in the lot, its glossy black exterior betraying nothing of the horror within. But on that September morning, curiosity finally overcame caution. When staff members finally opened the front trunk, the front, as Tesla owners call it, they were met with something they could never forget. The dismembered and decomposed remains of a young girl wrapped in black plastic bags. The Los Angeles Police Department arrived within minutes. Crime scene investigators cordoned off the area. The Los Angeles County Coroner's Office was summoned, and within hours, what had begun as a routine day at a tow yard had become the center of a homicide investigation that would captivate the nation. The body was quickly identified through dental records as 15-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez, who had been missing from her family's home in Lake Elsinore, California, since April 2024. She was just 13 years old when she first disappeared, a bright-eyed teenager who loved art, music, and dreamed of a future that would never come. But the revelation that would send shockwaves through the music industry was yet to come. Because this Tesla wasn't just any abandoned vehicle. It was registered to David Anthony Burke, the 20-year-old R&B sensation whose meteoric rise had made him one of the most recognizable voices of his generation. To understand why this discovery sent shockwaves through the entertainment world, you need to understand who David Anthony Burke had become in the public eye. He wasn't some underground artist struggling for recognition. He was a bona fide viral sensation, the voice behind haunting hits like Romantic Homicide and Here With Me. Songs that blended raw emotional vulnerability with lo-fi production techniques, striking a deep chord with Gen Z listeners worldwide. Born in New York but raised in Houston, Burke had crafted his stage persona as an introspective, almost shy artist who channeled his feelings through music. His breakout track, Romantic Homicide, was famously recorded in his sister's closet using nothing more than an iPhone, earbuds, and the free music app BandLab. The song's haunting refrain about killing someone and
then I made Romantic Homicide, and it was so different than everything else I had made because it was actually sad. It was slow, it was sad, it was emotional.
By 2025, D4vd boasted over 33 million monthly listeners on Spotify alone. A staggering achievement that placed him among the platform's most streamed artists. His concerts sold out within minutes. His merchandise flew off shelves. Record labels courted him with multi-million-dollar deals. He had achieved what most artists only dream of, global recognition before his 21st birthday. In interviews, Burke portrayed himself as a young man driven by empathy, creativity, and artistic vision. He spoke often about his love for gaming, anime, and poetry. His music videos featured cinematic storytelling with mysterious characters and symbolic imagery. To his devoted fan base, he wasn't just making music. He was creating an entire artistic universe. So if you can expel that thought from your mind. In that interview with Zach Sang, Burke had explained his creative process with what seemed like genuine artistic passion. He talked about building narrative tension, about exploring the darker corners of human emotion through metaphor and symbolism. To his fans, these words represented the mind of a gifted young artist grappling with complex themes through his craft. But in light of Celeste's tragic fate, those same words now carry an eerie, almost prophetic weight. The line between artistic expression and live reality suddenly seemed disturbingly thin. For the Hernandez family, the news headlines were not shocking revelations, but confirmation of their deepest, most haunting fears. They had lived with uncertainty for over a year, clinging to hope while dreading exactly this kind of call from law enforcement. Celeste had been remembered by those who knew her as a bright, artistic teenager with an infectious smile and boundless creativity. She filled sketchbooks with detailed drawings, spent hours listening to music from various genres, and dreamed of pursuing art in college. Her teachers described her as talented and enthusiastic, though perhaps more trusting than some of her peers. Her family lived in Lake Elsinore, a community about 70 miles southeast of Los Angeles known for its scenic lake and close-knit neighborhoods. It was the kind of place where everyone knew everyone, where teenagers walked to school, and parents felt safe letting their children explore their independence. For the Hernandez family, it had always felt like a protective bubble until it wasn't. Around late 2022 and early 2023, Celeste discovered D4vd's music like millions of other young people scrolling through TikTok and Spotify. His melancholic melodies and introspective lyrics spoke to her in the way that certain songs can capture a teenager's emotional landscape perfectly. She began following his social media accounts, commenting on his posts, and sharing his music with friends. According to her relatives, what started as typical fan behavior soon evolved into something far more concerning. Online interactions allegedly became private conversations. Social media comments turned into direct messages, and eventually digital communications evolved into real-world meetings that her family knew little about. Evidence would later suggest that their relationship had transcended the typical artist-fan dynamic by a significant margin. Most notably, both Celeste...
He found photos from last September where he has on his pointer finger of his right hand
the same finger as hers.
The same exact finger, the exact same tattoo. It's in black, so it's not red ink.
The tattoo would later become one of the most haunting pieces of evidence in the case. A permanent symbol of secrecy shared between a rising star and a missing teenager. In December 2023, an unreleased demo track titled Celeste had leaked online through various music forums and social media platforms. The song's lyrics were direct and unsettling. "Oh, Celeste, the girl with my name tattooed on her chest, I'm obsessed." At the time, many assumed it was fictional, just another example of Burke's storytelling through song. The timing, however, was particularly significant. This was months before Celeste's disappearance, suggesting the relationship had been ongoing for an extended period. Her mother, Maria Hernandez, had told reporters that before Celeste's disappearance, her daughter had mentioned having a boyfriend named David. The revelation seemed innocuous at the time. David is, after all, one of the most common names in America. No one in the family could have imagined that this David was the same young man whose voice emanated from their daughter's bedroom speakers every night. The same artist whose concerts sold out arenas across the country. The casual way Burke
She died, and I didn't even cry, not a single tear.
Young artists often explore dark themes as a way of processing complex emotions and connecting with audiences who feel similarly lost or misunderstood. But listening to these words now, knowing what investigators would later discover, they take on a chilling quality that's impossible to ignore. When Celeste first disappeared in April 2024, she was just 13 years old. Her family filed missing person reports with local law enforcement. Flyers with her photograph were distributed throughout Lake Elsinore and surrounding communities. Social media campaigns shared her information across Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, hoping someone might have seen her or know where she had gone. But Celeste's case never gained the widespread media attention that some missing children received. Perhaps it was because she was Latina in a media landscape that often prioritizes certain demographics over others. Perhaps it was because her family lacked the resources and connections to push the story into national headlines. Or perhaps it was simply the cruel reality that hundreds of teenagers go missing every year and not all of them capture public imagination. Her family never stopped searching, never stopped hoping, never stopped fearing the worst. They organized search parties, contacted local news stations, and maintained active social media accounts dedicated to finding her. But as weeks turned to months and months stretched toward a year, the leads grew cold and the media attention faded. The footage that changed everything. In the immediate aftermath of the discovery, Burke's representatives issued carefully worded statements expressing shock and sadness at the news of Celeste's death. His legal team emphasized that he was cooperating fully with law enforcement and maintained that any connection between their client and the tragic death was purely coincidental. For several days, this narrative held. While speculation ran rampant on social media and true crime forums, there was no definitive proof that Burke had even known Celeste personally, let alone been involved in her disappearance or death. The matching tattoos could be explained as coincidence. The unreleased song could be dismissed as fiction. Even the fact that her body was found in his car could potentially be explained by theft or some other scenario. But that fragile defense began to crumble in mid-September 2025, when an avalanche of previously hidden footage began surfacing across social media platforms. Suddenly, the whispers and speculation were replaced by visual evidence that told a story of intimate familiarity, deliberate secrecy, and calculated deception. This wasn't just additional evidence. It was a complete reframing of the narrative that made denial impossible and transformed public perception from uncertainty to outrage. The first crack in Burke's defense came from an unexpected source, his own live streams. In January 2024, Burke had been regularly streaming on Twitch, building his fan community through casual gaming sessions and music discussion. These streams typically featured him alone in his setup, chatting with viewers while playing popular games or working on new music. But internet sleuths combing through archive footage discovered something that had been overlooked.
Yo, wait.
Oh, look it. Is it that one? That's so mean if you don't answer.
Which one? What's good to have a big fan? Yo, thank you, Mitch.
I gotta stop with him if you even. He's a
The clip was brief but devastating. The girl appeared comfortable and familiar with Burke's streaming setup, laughing naturally and pointing at chat messages for him to read. This wasn't the awkward interaction you might expect between a famous musician and a random fan. It was the easy intimacy of two people who clearly knew each other well. But what truly set alarm bells ringing was Burke's request at the end of the stream. His casual suggestion to delete all VODs, video-on-demand recordings, and clips after the broadcast ended. At the time, his moderators had complied with the request, assuming the girl was at least 18 years old and that Burke simply preferred to keep certain streams private. In hindsight, however, the deletion request looks far more sinister. Why would Burke want to erase evidence of the stream unless he knew that something about it was problematic? The girl's apparent age, combined with the intimate nature of their interaction, suggested that this was not a casual encounter, but evidence of an ongoing relationship that Burke was actively trying to hide. The timestamp on the stream placed it in January 2024, just months before Celeste's disappearance in April. This meant that not only had Burke known Celeste personally, but he had been comfortable enough with their relationship to include her in his public streams, while simultaneously being concerned enough about the optics to request that the footage be deleted. On September 18, 2025, TMZ delivered what many considered the most damaging blow to Burke's credibility. The celebrity news outlet published both a photograph and a short video that had allegedly been sourced from a hacked iCloud account connected to Celeste's social circle. The photo showed Burke and Celeste in an unmistakably intimate pose, arms wrapped around each other, both smiling directly at the camera. But what made the image truly damning was what it revealed about their hands. Both clearly displayed the matching SH tattoos that had been the subject of so much speculation. The accompanying video was even more devastating. It showed the pair walking together at what appeared to be a small music industry event, whispering to each other, and displaying the kind of comfortable physical proximity that suggested a romantic relationship rather than a casual fan interaction. Celeste wore a hoodie emblazoned with Burke's tour merchandise, indicating that she had access to exclusive promotional items typically reserved for industry insiders and close associates. The metadata on these images placed them in mid-2024, months after Celeste had been reported missing by her family. This meant that while her relatives were organizing search parties and distributing missing person flyers, she was apparently alive and actively participating in Burke's professional life. This revelation completely obliterated the narrative that Burke barely knew Celeste or that any connection between them was coincidental. Here was forensic-level evidence of an ongoing relationship that had continued well into the period when she was officially considered a missing person. Perhaps even more disturbing than the evidence of Burke's relationship with Celeste was what the footage revealed about the broader network of people who seemed to know about and facilitate their interactions. On June 27, 2024, someone had recorded cell phone footage backstage at one of Burke's concerts. The video, which resurfaced on September 19, 2025, showed Celeste wearing an official VIP pass and chatting animatedly with a young man who was later identified as Burke's brother, who worked as part of his touring crew. The casual nature of this interaction was deeply troubling. Celeste wasn't sneaking backstage or trying to get unauthorized access. She had official credentials and was clearly welcomed by Burke's family members. The footage showed her mentioning that she was planning to surprise David later, suggesting that their meetings were regular enough that his family had become accustomed to her presence. This raised profound questions about the scope of knowledge and complicity surrounding their relationship. Did Burke's family know Celeste's real age? Had they been told she was older than she actually was, or were they aware of her age, but chose to look the other way because of their loyalty to Burke? The footage also suggested that Celeste's access to Burke's professional life extended far beyond casual fan interactions. VIP passes at major concerts are typically reserved for family members, industry professionals, and close personal friends. The fact that she possessed one indicated that she held a significant position in Burke's inner circle. For investigators and the public, this evidence painted a picture of a relationship that wasn't hidden from everyone, just from the people who might have been most concerned about its appropriateness, including law enforcement and Celeste's own family. As public scrutiny intensified, internet users began combing through archived Discord servers, old social media posts, and cached versions of deleted content. What they discovered was a digital paper trail that seemed to document the evolution of Burke and Celeste's relationship over time. Screenshots allegedly pulled from Burke's private Discord server began circulating on TikTok and Reddit. These images showed conversations where Burke apparently referenced dating someone named Celeste and repeatedly urged other server members to keep things quiet about certain topics. Music critics and legal experts debated whether artistic expression could be used as evidence in criminal proceedings. While lyrics alone are rarely admissible in court, they can provide important context when combined with other evidence. In Burke's case, the songs seem to corroborate rather than contradict the narrative suggested by the physical and digital evidence. Fallout and the search for justice. The release of compelling visual evidence in mid-September 2025 triggered an avalanche of consequences that extended far beyond Burke's personal life. Within hours of the footage going viral, a carefully constructed public image began to collapse, taking with it millions of dollars in business relationships, professional partnerships, and career opportunities. The speed and thoroughness of the industry's response suggested that many insiders had harbored private concerns about Burke's behavior for months or even years. When the evidence finally became undeniable, the entertainment industry moved swiftly to distance itself from potential liability and reputational damage. The first institutional response came from law enforcement. On September 18, 2025, just hours after TMZ published their damaging photographs and video, the Los Angeles Police Department executed a comprehensive search warrant at Burke's rented Hollywood Hills home. The property, located just blocks from where his Tesla had been abandoned, became the center of intense investigative activity. Neighbors reported seeing unmarked police vehicles, crime scene technicians, and what appeared to be cadaver dogs brought to the scene. The search lasted over 8 hours and involved specialists from multiple divisions of the LAPD. Among the items seized during the raid were multiple encrypted hard drives that required specialized software to access, several hidden cameras that had been disguised as everyday household objects, and a notebook filled with coded entries and messages that investigators believed might contain important evidence about Celeste's disappearance and death. The presence of encryption technology and hidden surveillance equipment suggested a level of premeditation and technological sophistication that went beyond simple criminal negligence. These tools indicated someone who was actively working to conceal their activities and monitor their environment for potential threats. The coded notebook was particularly intriguing to investigators. Forensic linguists were brought in to analyze the writing patterns and attempt to decode the messages. Early analysis suggested that the entries might contain references to meetings, locations, and individuals involved in Burke's personal life during the period around Celeste's disappearance. Perhaps most significantly, forensic teams searched the property for any biological evidence that might connect the location to Celeste's death. They examined drains, checked for blood traces, and collected samples from areas where a body might have been processed or stored. While the results of these tests have not been made public, the thoroughness of the search suggested that investigators suspected the house might have been a crime scene. Burke's professional world began disintegrating almost immediately after the evidence became public. The music industry, which had embraced him as a rising star just months earlier, moved with remarkable speed to sever all connections. His ongoing Weed World Tour was canceled overnight, leaving thousands of ticket holders disappointed and hundreds of venue workers, security personnel, and support staff suddenly unemployed. The tour had been scheduled to include major venues across North America and Europe, representing millions of dollars in lost revenue, not just for Burke, but for the entire ecosystem of businesses that support major concert tours. The cancellations also highlighted the financial complexity of modern music careers. When a major tour is canceled, the losses extend far beyond the artist's own income. Venues lose booking fees and concession revenue. Local businesses near concert halls lose anticipated customer traffic. Merchandise vendors, sound technicians, lighting crews, and transportation companies all suffer immediate financial consequences. Intercope Records and Universal Music Group, which had invested heavily in Burke's career development, moved quickly to freeze all ongoing projects. Plans for a deluxe edition of his album Afterlife were shelved indefinitely. Music videos that had been in production were halted mid-editing. Marketing campaigns worth hundreds of thousands of dollars were suspended. The label's response reflected the modern reality of celebrity partnerships in the digital age. When public opinion turns against an artist, record companies must balance contractual obligations against reputational risks. The speed with which Burke's label distanced itself suggested that they had conducted their own internal assessment of the evidence and concluded that continued association was untenable. Sony Music Publishing, which controlled some of Burke's songwriting rights, also terminated their relationship. This meant that future royalties from his existing songs would be affected and his ability to monetize his musical catalog would be severely limited. Perhaps most symbolically devastating was the response from other artists. Kelly Uchee, the respected R&B singer who had collaborated with Burke on the track Crashing, ordered the song removed from all streaming platforms within 24 hours of the evidence being released. Her representatives issued a statement expressing horror and disgust at the allegations and emphasizing that she had been unaware of Burke's alleged activities when they worked together. Other musicians who had previously courted collaborations with Burke began quietly removing his name from their social media accounts, deleting promotional posts, and scrubbing references to planned joint projects. The music industry's response created a clear message. Association with Burke had become professionally toxic. Outside the music industry, corporate partners moved even more aggressively to protect their brand images. Companies that had seen Burke as an appealing spokesperson for Generation Z consumers suddenly viewed him as a liability that could damage their relationships with exactly the same demographic. Crocs, the footwear company that had partnered with Burke on a limited edition shoe collaboration, not only terminated their contract, but also halted production of any remaining inventory bearing his likeness or branding. The company issued a statement emphasizing their commitment to child safety and responsible partnerships. Hollister, the clothing retailer that had featured Burke in their advertising campaigns targeting young consumers, similarly ended their relationship and pulled all marketing materials featuring his image. Other brands that had been negotiating potential partnerships quietly withdrew their offers. The corporate response highlighted how quickly modern brand partnerships can become liabilities in the age of social media. Companies that once coveted associations with viral celebrities now recognize that public opinion can shift overnight, potentially damaging carefully cultivated brand images built over decades. Perhaps nowhere was the impact of the revelations more visible than among Burke's own fan base. His followers had invested not just money, but emotional energy in supporting his career, streaming his music, attending his concerts, and defending him against criticism. The evidence of his relationship with Celeste forced many fans to confront the uncomfortable reality that their idol might have been involved in predatory behavior. Social media platforms became battlegrounds between fans who refused to believe the allegations and others who felt betrayed by Burke's deception. Some fan communities disbanded entirely, with administrators deleting Discord servers, Facebook groups, and fan websites. Others evolved into support networks for people processing their emotions about discovering that an artist they had admired might have committed serious crimes. The psychological impact on young fans was particularly concerning to mental health professionals. Many of Burke's followers were teenagers themselves, and the revelation that someone they had trusted and admired might have been involved in harming someone their own age created complex trauma responses. As of the latest available information, the investigation into Celeste's death remains active. The LAPD has not announced any charges against Burke or anyone else in connection with her disappearance and death. The forensic analysis of evidence seized during the search of his home could take months to complete. Thanks for watching. Check out other cards on the screen.